Well, the Blackstone news is the latest sign of a slowdown in the real estate industry. Yesterday, Wells Fargo cut hundreds of additional mortgage employees as higher interest rates put a dent in the home lending boom. Joining us for more insight on the industry is Bess Freedman, CEO of Brown Harris Stevens, which is one of the largest privately held real estate companies in the U.S. Bess, it's so good to speak with you.
Nice to see you, man. Nice to see you, Romaine.
Likewise.
So I'll get to your view on the housing market in just a moment, but given the news that Wells Fargo has cut all these mortgage employees, I'm curious about the pain that real estate brokerages are facing in light of the slowdown in housing. The business model for brokerages is that your brokers are contractors. I wonder if they've had to accept a lower split?
No, we haven't seen anything like that. They're 1099s, they're independent contractors, and they're basically the CEOs of their own companies. So it doesn't affect us. Transactions happen in bull markets and bear markets, right? So we've been through the breakup when the mortgage crisis happened in 2008, and they were able to still prevail and do well and do business, and this is a better time than it was then. So I think for us as a brokerage,
then meaning the financial crisis.
Yeah, the market. There are the underwriting process is much stricter,
right?
And so it's a different environment today than it was back then. And independent contractors can still do business, are still doing well. In fact, in this market, it requires more expertise than it would in a bull market. Last year, you can't attribute that to brains. It was a bull market.
It's all about the value add.
That's right, exactly. And agents provide an incredible value in tougher markets because they can give them information, they build trust with people. So no, we haven't had to cut anything. We haven't cut employees. We're not cutting anything. We continue to persevere and do well, even in these types of markets.
Even though transaction volumes are down, I would think.
Yeah, transactions are, listen, it's a lumpy market.
Yes.
That is for sure. It's a different vibe than it was last year, and everybody keeps comparing this year to last year, and I don't think that's really fair because last year was a year like we've never seen before, and 2020 was the pandemic. So we have to really look at 2019, and our numbers are better than they were in 2019.
I'm curious about the makeup of some of your clients. One of the stories, even before rates started to go up, was the inordinate amount of cash buyers out there, whether they were buying primary homes or whether they were investors. I'm wondering whether, A, that's still a trend, and B, does that help in this environment given where mortgage rates are?
Yeah, New York is very much a cash market. There's a lot of people that are paying cash. And remember last year, there was a tsunami of cash that was put into the economy. And so people still have a lot of money. We're seeing big deals get done. Last week, I think it was, we saw something get signed for over $20 million on the West Side. So people are still, those discretionary spenders are still out there.
But it all comes down to inventory, and that's where it gets tricky, right? Because no one who's locked into a 2% mortgage is willing to sell so that they can then sign on to a mortgage that's around 7% at the moment. So outside of death and divorce, what is it going to take to get more inventory online?
It depends. Some places have too much supply and some places have too much demand. Connecticut has very high demand and not enough supply. Each real estate market is so local, and it depends. And real estate, remember, it's about time, not timing. It's the long-term investment, and it's also for consumption. When you buy a home, you live in your home. You can't live in your stock portfolio, right? So it's the long-term that you have your home, 5, 10, 15 years. That's how people think about real estate. They don't think about it as something typically as a transaction to flip and keep moving. And so first-time home buyers are probably going to wait a little bit because of rates, but rates are still historically low.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What about regional differences right now? Nationally, I would think that there's probably a big difference between certain markets, particularly compared to New York City.
Yeah, New York City is its own special place, right? Because we have a lot of co-ops and condos, and it's the majority of the housing stock, they're rentals. They're not even, to buy properties. But places like Connecticut and Palm Beach, those are places still where people are going and want to be there, and there's not enough supply. But New York is still a good place to purchase. And there's good supply in New York City.
Looking ahead, do you still see the adage applying, marry the house, date the rate?
Oh, I was going to use that line. You stole my line. Yes. I think that, nobody can macro forecast what's going to be with rates. But I think things are better than we expected. And I think people should think in those terms. Marry the home, date the rate, and then you can refi later, hopefully for something a little bit better. And so, I'm semi-optimistic on the market. I know a lot of people are feeling down about it, but I think we could be in a much worse place.
Do you think mortgage rates have peaked, residential mortgage rates?
So I would love to see that. We're going to have to see what happens with the Fed in 2 weeks. We saw the Dow rally this week. There's still some really good things out there. I feel better than during the pandemic. I feel better than post-Lehman. I feel, we're in a better than post 9/11. People are out there, and like you said, they have to buy, they have to sell. The market is there to serve them, not instruct them. And so, I think we're going to be okay. It's lumpy. It is lumpy out there, but it's okay.
All right, Bess, wonderful to see you. Bess Freedman there. She's the CEO of Brown.